Hey everyone, are you going 3 for 3 and watching all of these videos because you're a political junkie or a stats nerd? Well, I get ya. In the final segment, I want to talk about a big piece of news, polling-wise, something that shocked me and I think you should know about because it's going to have an impact on how the race is tracked in the coming year. And then finally, I want to give you my thoughts on the situation that's happening in the Republican Party in the US right now and how I see this as part of the larger GOP Civil War that's been going on for years. In the 2012 cycle, Gallup polling had a pretty bad time. They picked Romney to win over Obama by 1 percentage point, which was wrong. And apparently there was a real kind of internal crisis about the methodology and the way that they collect their data and whether or not it was reliable and what went wrong with the models. And for those of you who think that when it comes to polling data that companies just make up data because you can lie with statistics, that's not the case. I can tell you from having attended a lot of conferences with people in the industry that the getting an election call wrong is a big deal within the polling industry, and it's something they try to avoid. They try to get the most accurate models possible. Now, part of that is just like pride, because they want to be the one that got it closest, oh, we got the result within half a percentage point. But kind of more than that, if you are good at modeling what is happening in a population, obviously your reputation goes up, and so it's good for business. It's a good advertising thing to have very accurate polls. Gallup had a bit of a problem, and they've done a lot of internal probing to see what went wrong, but even though they have done this, they've decided not to poll for the presidential race for 2016. That means that even though Gallup data has gone back to the 1940s, we're going to have nothing this year from Gallup. And that's important because they're a large survey firm. They've in the past been able to produce good predictions as to what's happened. They've provided valuable data to track the election. And instead of, trying out their system on this election cycle, they're just pulling out and they're going to do other things, but they're not going to pull the horse race of the presidential cycle. And that's unfortunate. That's going to be one less series in the Real Clear average poll of polls that helps us get a better picture. But that's kind of a big thing in the polling world. And so if you're wondering in the next year why you aren't seeing Gallup data when you've seen Gallup data in the past, that's why. All right, chaos in the House. This was a really interesting week. For those of you who are watching this, you probably already know that John Boehner had, after the Pope's visit, decided to step down as leader. Kevin McCarthy, who is English challenged, was fortunately not nominated to be the Speaker of the House. He withdrew his name from consideration because he was not a good candidate, and he also got a taste of the Tea Party nonsense that happens in the House. And now they can't find anyone. They're begging Paul Ryan to lead them. Just think about this. The Republicans have turned the number 3 position in terms of the presidency into such a shit job that nobody in their own caucus wants to lead them. I mean, yeah, you've got people who are offering their names, but you don't have, other than Paul Ryan, who seems to be like the last hope. Help us, Paul Ryan, you're our only hope. They don't have a leadership structure in place that is going to take on these roles. And it's, to me, what's interesting here is not this individual flare-up, because I tend to see what's happening in the GOP over a really long stretch of time. It's not like cosmic time in astronomy when a sun goes past a black hole and then it takes 50 million years for the whole process to take place. Maybe not 50 million. But political civil wars are happening around flashpoints in the Republican Party. So if we cast our minds back to 2013, that was the heyday, shall we say, of the Tea Party attack on the establishment. They had rallied all of these people. They had, dominated the summer airwaves in terms of promising to shut down creating a confrontation over Obamacare and access to, affordable health care. And they took that, Don Quixote-like charge all the way up to shutdown. And they got what they wanted, and they still lost because Tea Party is really bad at strategy. So the establishment basically kind of won on a default because their enemies were really stupid. I mean, the Tea Party and Ted Cruz and his ilk had really negotiated, like worked themselves into a corner. It was terrible tactics. It was, just like if it was a military campaign, it was kind of along the lines of Varus, the legions that were slaughtered in the parts of Germany. 3 legions were lost to guerrilla attacks, right? The Tea Party set themselves up and they just fell over. So the establishment then kind of had a counterpunch. And the counterpunch to the establishment was driving out a lot of Tea Party candidates before the 2014 election. And there was this feeling that the establishment was in the ascendancy. But when the Republicans broke the shutdown and split off in order to leave the Tea Party behind and get government functioning again, to me that felt like there was a massive break in the party. And I thought that actually the Tea Party would form more of its own wing in Congress and be a lot more of an independent rival to the GOP institutionally. But that's not really what's been the case. What I think has happened now, looking at the presidential election, is the base itself was geared up for that shutdown, obviously felt sort of like maybe it was a straw that broke the camel's back, or maybe it was just another in a series of establishment's failed promises. But the base now, the Tea Party is on the ascendancy again. And we see it in terms of the outsiders driving out the establishment candidate, even though you can't really, it's not like Tea Party is behind Trump's name or Carson's name or Fiorina's name. It is the case that they are appealing to precisely the kind of voters who the establishment can appeal to. And so now in the House, too, you see the Tea Party again. I talked about how they like to be standing outside the tent, pissing in. Another way I was thinking about this is, it's October and I've got a fly in my room, which I guess I should be happy about because it means that it's still warm outside for there to be things that are living. It's not frosting and stuff. But I really don't want a friend when I'm making my video. Can I open the window and let you out? Go on. Go on. Now everything's falling apart. Yay, he left. Okay. Alright, where was I? Oh yes, so Tea Party in the ascendancy again. And it's been kind of a guerrilla campaign, a stealth campaign, because it's not so much like the members of Congress for the Tea Party are leading these charges. The base is spontaneously gravitating toward non-establishment candidates. And then in the House, you see the Tea Party basically just pulling the leadership down and being quite happy with there being a very weak leadership or no leadership in its place. Because again, the whole point of people on that segment is to stop government from functioning at all, except in maybe military spending and tax breaks to corporations. So I think the thing I want you to take away from this in terms of what I see happening is that the GOP Civil War has flared up again, and I don't see it getting resolved. I think it's going to actually become a greater and greater divide, and instead of being played out in the House and the Senate, which was what happened in the off-presidential year, this time I think we're going to see it play out in the presidential race. The key problem facing the establishment is how do they make their candidates appeal to voters who are supporting outsiders. And the expectation that those people are going to come home just because they're Republicans and they won't have any other choice, I don't think is a very secure strategy. Alright, that's going to be it. 3 videos, very exciting. I'll have more when more interesting political news comes up. I've been Christy, you've been awesome. Thanks for watching.